It's the Donno Drop here on the Five Reasons Sports Network as the good times keep rolling down here in South Florida. Miami Heat, NBA Finals. They had to really work at it in the Eastern Conference Finals. Florida Panthers had an easier time getting through the East Finals. They're in the Stanley Cup Finals. The Heat are opening up against Denver on Thursday. The Panthers are opening up against Vegas on Saturday. So our lives are going to stay interesting down here in this area. Something I was thinking about today, guys. You go back to first game of the first Miami Heat playoff series, right? And obviously they weren't supposed to beat the Milwaukee Bucks, who were the top seed in the entire league at that point, best record in the NBA, best team in the East and all that. And Tyler Hero got hurt in that game. And you can remember the medical diagnosis that came out of that when Hero suffered that injury was the earliest Tyler can return would be in time for the NBA Finals. Everybody laughed at that. Like, you think this team is going to the... Okay, so his season is over is what you're telling me. Because everyone was saying it. The medical diagnosis was the earliest Tyler Hero could come back would be for the NBA Finals, and then laughter just erupted. Oh, if you think this team is getting to the finals, and okay, now we're going to see probably at some point in this Nuggets series. I don't know if he'd be ready to play in any capacity in game one, but perhaps game 2 or 3, maybe game 3 at home. You're going to see Tyler Hero probably coming off the bench, hopefully adding another scoring punch for the Heat because he tends to do very well against Denver. So crazy the way these things work out. And then, of course, on the flip side, Florida Panthers opened up their playoff run against historically the best regular season team of all time, points-wise, in the Boston Bruins. They got by the Bruins. They've gotten by everybody. They swept Carolina. They beat a Toronto Maple Leafs team that all the Canadian hockey fans were chirping about. We want Florida. Oh, you got Florida. It didn't work out so well for you. And why don't we talk Florida Panthers hockey with a Canadian, our good pal, Alex Baumgartner, who... This is the perfect backdrop, Alex, because you are at FLA Live Arena. Panthers had practice today, so look at that. How beautiful is that? You are on the scene, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
And I bet for someone like yourself who's going to be traveling to road games in this final series, you're probably pretty happy that it's Vegas, not Dallas.
Matchups aside, which also I didn't really care about because we're in the Stanley Cup final. 5 days in Vegas sounds a little bit better than, Dallas is a cool city, but yeah, a little bit more going down on the strip for my 5 days in Vegas.
Yeah, I've been to both cities. The old, like the strip in Dallas, you can get some good Tex-Mex, some good barbecue around there. You can go see Dealey Plaza, where all the John F. Kennedy assassination happened. But then after like 2 hours, you're like, yeah, I've seen Dallas. I'm good. Vegas is a completely different story.
Only so many pictures of the Dirk statue I can take before I get over the city.
The old Dirk statue. So, okay, so you said, basically you weren't as concerned about matchups because it's the Stanley Cup Finals. But with that said, would Dallas not have been probably a better matchup on paper?
I don't know if there would have been a better matchup on paper. I think that series was kind of weird in its own right because if you're only watching Panthers hockey, besides a couple games in the Bruins series, like, dang, they played so many one-goal games. I think they might have 9, something. It's like 8 or 9 one-goal wins, which is by far the most in the postseason. And they played a couple more one-goal games. They lost that one game to Toronto here, which was a one-goal game. Panthers played a lot of tight games after that Boston series. The Dallas-Vegas series, first 2 go to OT. Game 3, Vegas pumps the brakes off of Dallas. Game 4, that goes to overtime, I believe. Game 5, Dallas keeps it. Vegas-Dallas are close until the last couple minutes. And then Game 6, Vegas just blew the brakes off of them again. So that would have been kind of a tough little matchup to see. I think both teams would have been a challenge. Because, the Western Conference teams, they all finished with about 100 points. So it's a very closer division compared to the East, I think.
One of the things that as we've come to find out during this run, and of course, people who watch hockey year over year, it's a lot like pitching in baseball. Having the hot goaltender is probably the most important thing for a Stanley Cup run. Do you feel like the Panthers have the edge in that department with the way that Bob has turned it on in this postseason?
I would say yes. But if there's a second best goalie in the playoffs, right now it's been Aiden Hill from the Vegas Golden Knights. He came in for Brossoit when Brossoit got injured a couple series ago, and he shut the door. And Vegas's goaltending has been very weird this season because they've had so many goalies come in and out because of injuries, but everyone that goes into the net has played great.
Yeah.
So their goaltending situation's been fine. Bobrovsky's been the best player in the playoffs, in my opinion. I think Matthew Tkachuk's been the second best. Aiden Hill's a top 4-5 player in the playoffs.
We're talking with Alex Baumgardner, who's our Five Reasons Sports Florida Panthers expert, and he is going to be home and away attending Stanley Cup Finals games. So talk a little bit about Matthew Tkachuk. You mentioned, and I can agree, he's probably been the second best player in these playoffs, and after Bob, the best player for the Florida Panthers, worth every single ounce and every penny and every part of that trade that the Panthers made for him. And it's not just it's weird, and it's why, Alex, I titled this episode, Teams of Destiny, or the Florida Panthers and Miami Heat teams. It feels that way for both teams. And for the Panthers, we always seem to know Bob is going to make the big saves when he needs to make them most. And then anytime you need a clutch goal, there's been a few Panthers who have provided those, but Matthew Tkachuk, it's been insane. You need a goal, he's going to provide one for you.
I mean, there was 4 games in that Eastern Conference Final Series because of the sweep. 3 of the game-winning goals from Matthew Tkachuk, and I'm almost 100% certain that Sam Reinhart's 1-0 winner in Game 3 was set up for Matthew Tkachuk on the power play. So literally every single goal in that sweep was because of Matthew Tkachuk, or at least in some reason Matthew Tkachuk had his hands involved in the play. And speaking of Sergei Bobrovsky, I mean, just today at practice, we were watching him, and we were like, maybe they're going to be a little rusty because of all the days off. I think David Dwork of Channel 10 of the Hockey News tweeted the Heat played Game 5, 6, 7, and will play Game 1 of the finals between the Panthers' last game and Saturday's Game 1. So the amount of time off they've had is ridiculous. But Bobrovsky made a save, slid across the crease, easily punched it out. We're all like, this guy's locked in still. But back on Matthew Tkachuk, he's been, I think, the clutchest performer in the playoff. He didn't score a goal in the Toronto series, but just the forechecking play, just kind of getting into everyone's face. He's the type of player that you don't want to play against because he can defend, he can forecheck, he can hit, and then he can lead the team in points. He's a spectacular player.
Yeah. So you mentioned watching practice today, ridiculous save by Bob. Anything else stand out to you when you were watching the Panthers on the ice this morning?
They went a little bit longer than usual, and Paul Maurice said they're going a little bit hard. Maybe not as long, but a little bit harder in practice because of all the days off, and you kind of have to keep that game tempo going as much as you can when you have 10 days off or whatever it is. Even like the whole season, the Panthers have been very locked in. Even when they were on the losing streaks and they weren't winning games, there's always smiles in the locker room, smiles on the ice, a lot of energy, even when the team was down. So I'm not too worried about their morale or if they're caught up in the moment. They look about as locked in as they have all season. One more thing, Eetu Luostarinen got hurt in Game 4, didn't return, hasn't skated since. Paul Maurice said yesterday he will be good for Game 1 of the finals.
Oh, great.
Or he should be good for Game 1 of the finals, but he hasn't skated yet, at least not with the media there. And I believe today was Panthers' last skate until they go to Vegas. So we'll see how that works. Also, it's 5 p.m. local time games in Vegas, so I don't know if they'll have a morning skate. Because it's kind of hard to get a morning skate in and then a 5 p.m. game compared to when they're playing in Florida. That's at 8 p.m. local time, and you can do a 10:30 a.m. morning skate.
Wow, it's interesting stuff here. Alex Baumgartner is with us. He's going to be on the road and at home covering the Florida Panthers in the Stanley Cup Finals. You were at media availability after practice. Anything from there stand out to you in talking with Maurice and whichever players you spoke to?
Yesterday when we talked to Maurice, going back to yesterday, connected to today, he said that there's only 3 guys on the Panthers that have won cups. Carter Verhaeghe was kind of a role player on that Tampa team when they won their first one out of their 3 straight final appearances. Patrick Hornqvist had 2. He's been on LTR a large part of the season, but he's been skating almost every day this run. And Eric Staal was a big-time player in 2006 when the Canes won the cup. Other than that, there's one other guy that's been to a Stanley Cup final. That's Mark Stahl. When I asked Paul if he's seen these guys kind of step up in the locker room to keep the guys in the moment, he said that they actually come in the meetings and they say, kind of like tell the team what's going on. Like, hey, this is the Stanley Cup final. We're going to stay in the moment, kind of things like that. But, they're all kind of focused. They're just, as the whole playoff series has been, just get one, just get one, just get one. The Panthers don't look ahead too much. When they were down 3-1 to Boston, they said, Game 7, Game 7, Game 7. They win in Toronto. They're up 2. We're playing Game 7. This team doesn't waver. They're focused on the goal. It's every day matters as a Game 7. So I'm not too worried about anything in morale-wise for this team.
Do you have a prediction for how the series is going to play out and who's going to hoist the cup?
I don't have a prediction because I haven't done a single prediction all series, and I don't want to mush it.
Yeah, so, you're a lot like me, by the way. I'm a hypocrite because I asked you if you have a prediction. I hate making predictions, but I thought I'm just going to put this on Alex. It has nothing to do with me.
All the rounds I've said that the Panthers have a tough opponent. They have a team better than them during the regular season. So I'm going to say that again. Vegas is going to be a tough matchup. They play a very complete team game, a very balanced team game in terms of where their points are coming from. They have a very good back end, and they're riding a hot goalie. They have stars that I think were a little bit better than Carolina's star players. Jack Eichel. They have Mark Stone, who's one of the best two-way players in the game of hockey. It's a very even matchup when we're looking at the teams on paper. Jack Eichel, Matthew Tkachuk, they're star players. Mark Stone, Sasha Barkov, star two-way players. Bobrovsky, Hill, standouts in the net this postseason. Depth scoring. Both of these teams run all 4 lines in overtime at the end of games, which not a lot of teams do in the playoffs. These two do. So it's a very, very even across the board. We're going to run all 18 skaters. We're going to play our goalies, things like that.
Where are you staying in Vegas, and do you have any plans outside of hockey, or are you just so locked into the work that the only part of the strip you're going to see is just walking to the arena?
Well, I completely forgot. Like Doug Plagan said today, he's like, well, these are 5 p.m. local games. And I'm like, yeah, we're going to be out of there by 9, right?
Yeah.
9 on a Saturday in Vegas. I mean, we'll probably go out for a couple beverages or something like that. But we're staying at the Hooters Hotel, which is now the Oyo on the end of the strip.
Oh, I didn't know they changed that. Yeah, so at least I know that hotel. I've never stayed there, but I know it's a great location, and it tends to be a place you can get really good rates staying there and it's close enough to the strip that you're like, I'm almost on the strip.
Yeah, it's like the back end of the strip. So you take the trams there. I covered the game in January. I was at the Mandalay Bay, which is kind of the other end of the strip too.
Yeah.
So weekend in Vegas, they raised the prices. So I'm like, I'm not staying anywhere close to the arena. I'll just stay on the other end of the strip. But we're going to be there. So that's all that matters.
I love that. Well, enjoy every second of it, and hopefully you're covering a team that just continues to overachieve as they've done all postseason long. He's Alex Baumgartner. He's actually on location right now at FLA Live Arena. Can you give people a look at the ice? Can you pan it out there onto the ice one more time? He's going to do it for us.
There you go.
Look at that.
There's going to be 20,000 people in here, not this coming Saturday, but the Saturday after. So Stanley Cup Finals. I believe this is the first time they're going to have a Stanley Cup final in this building because 96 would have been the old Miami Arena.
It definitely was the old, 96 was the old building. Yeah.
The Florida Panthers will be having the county of Broward County will be having their first Stanley Cup final in a couple days, 10-something days in this building for the first time ever, second time ever in franchise history. There are going to be people sitting right up there. So that's something for this city that's going to be unique.
Well, keep up the great work, man. I look forward to watching your coverage. We'll have to do this again during the series.
Thanks, Alex.
I love it. Great job there. The Alex to Alex connection. Alex Baumgardner doing an awesome job. Brooklyn, Rob knows what's up. Panthers will take the cup as long as Donno does not mush the team. I've been doing, as you can see, I've been doing my best the entire postseason long not to mush the Panthers. And I think that it has to do a lot with me not having much faith when they started their playoff run. I grew into it, okay? I thought they were going to get hammered by Boston. I thought Boston was going to do just terrible, terrible things to Florida. But they showed me something, and coming back down 3-1, winning that series in 7 against the best regular season team of all time, the Florida Panthers. I've had faith since that Boston series. Okay. But whatever I've been doing to not mush them, Brooklyn Rob, I hope I can keep it going for one more round. Okay. And honestly, you look at what's happening in this town right now. I mean, we've had other cities have had recent runs where like multiple championships have been won in a short period of time. It happened with Tampa, with the Lightning and the Buccaneers. I feel like this stuff happens a lot in Boston. It's happened in Philly before. You've had runs like this, but the way that South Florida is doing it right now, where, you've got, and the Miami Heat obviously have given us a steady dose of NBA finals over the years. They've been there. What'll this be? The 7th time they've been there since 2006, but the Florida Panthers haven't done this since 1996. And both teams are doing it in the same season as 8 seeds. Like this really has a team of destiny feel about it. And, in the Miami Heat's case, obviously they've got, a pretty steady crop of fans who have, been hardcore with the team for many, many years. But a lot of those hardcore Miami Heat fans, myself included, wavered a lot during the regular season. This team was bad during the regular season. I didn't even really have a thought in my head when they came back against Chicago in the final 3 minutes of the final play-in game. I didn't look at that team and say, oh, they can win a championship this year. I said, oh, let's try not to get swept against Milwaukee. So the regular season just felt like an exercise in futility. For the Florida Panthers, it was different because they had to kind of claw their way up to the 8 seed, but I don't think anyone had faith that this team was going to win a title. So they have tested our sanity at times. They've tested our patience at times, but with both of these teams defying the odds all the way through the playoffs at this point, you kind of feel like something special is about to happen in both directions here. And I'm looking at, I've got some NBA Finals odds I want to take a look at here in a second. And it goes to show you again how, the Miami Heat will continue to get counted out all the way up until the parade they're going to have down Biscayne Boulevard in a couple of weeks. They're going to be counted out continually by the media because that's the way it's been all along here. I want to remind you guys that this episode of the Donno Drop is proudly brought to you by Better Edge and by Prize Picks. So all the action that we're going to be getting during these final series, we're going to be getting that at betteredge.com, BETTOR edge.com, and use our code 5RSN, and they're going to give you a $20 sign-up bonus just for using our code 5RSN. And here's the amazing thing about Better Edge. It's legal sports betting in Florida. The way that they do it, the way they're able to keep it legal is you're not betting against a casino. You're not betting against the house at Better Edge. You're betting against other people. You're betting against other users on the site, and that's why it's completely legal in the state of Florida and in, I think, 45 or 46 states in this amazing country of ours. BetterEdge.com is completely legal. It's a lot of fun. You can get the lines you want at Better Edge, and I'm telling you guys, you're looking for action on the NBA Finals, on the Stanley Cup Finals. This is not offshore. They're based in, I heard Heaton say that they're based in Minneapolis, Minnesota, which is cool. So, I mean, this is not an offshore operation. It's a completely legal site, betteredge.com. Use our code 5RSN. They're going to give you a $20 sign-up bonus. Try it out. Very easy to deposit, very easy to withdraw, and everything is completely above board at betteredge.com. The same can be said for prizepicks.com. Fully legal in the state of Florida. This is daily fantasy on steroids, folks. I'm going to be all over Prize Picks tomorrow night, Saturday night when the Miami Heat and Florida Panthers play. And how about this? Heading into game 1 against Denver, they are giving you a special on Prize Picks. So the way that it works on Prize Picks, you simply make selections of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players and predict if they're going to go over or under their stat projections, more or less. And if you get all your predictions correct, you're winning real money. It's daily fantasy combined with parlays, and it's incredible. They're basically giving you a free play to stack your selections with for tomorrow night, game 1 of the NBA Finals. They've got a special on Nikola Jokic. His normal over-under for tomorrow night is 27.5 points, but they're giving you essentially the free selection on Prize Picks where they're giving you over or under half a point for Jokic. So if Jokic hits one basket or even one free throw, you're going to go, I'm taking the under. I don't know about you. I think the Heat are going to lock him down. No, I mean, it's a free space. If you take the over on Nikola Jokic, I'm sure some of you smart asses out there will take the under just to make some kind of a point and just throw your money away. But I think that's pretty cool. They're giving you 0.5 over under on Nikola Jokic. Jimmy Butler is over or under 27.5 points. I think he's going to have his Superman cape on tomorrow night. I'm probably going over there. Let's see. Bam Adebayo over under 16.5. That's a tough one. I could see Bam having like a kind of like he did in game 7, having like an almost triple double, but maybe being like 14 points and probably going under the 16.5. So that's probably the direction I would go in there. But you can have fun with this, guys. And when you use prizepicks.com or the PrizePicks mobile app, sign up with our code 5. That's FIVE. Sign up with our code 5, and they're going to match your first deposit 100% up to $100. How good is that? So use our code 5, spell it out, FIVE, and you'll thank me later, because PrizePicks truly is daily fantasy made easy. I like this one from John Hawk. Heat in 7, Panthers in 6. Man, and I'm hungover with joy about what the Heat were able to do in that game 7. I had a quiet confidence going into it. And the reason why I had a quiet confidence going into that game 7 in Boston, Eric Spoelstra, Jimmy Butler, and all the other players, they set the tone for me. They were unfazed by that heartbreaking ending to game 6, the Derek White tip in. Like that play, within a couple seconds thinking the Heat got the stop they needed. They're going to win this game in 6. They're advancing to the finals. And then to have that, as a fan taken away from me when they reviewed, the replay, oh, he did get it off in time and it counts. Like my heart was ripped out of my chest in that moment. Right. And I'm like, oh man, this is one of like, how do you come back from this is what I was thinking. But then I'm watching the post-game pressers and I'm seeing just how nonchalant and just completely undeterred Spo and Jimmy were, and how confident they were heading into game 7. And like in a weird way, as a fan, it kind of set the tone for me, and to think I think they can do this. I think they can actually pull this off. And then watching that game 7, I was expecting 2.5 hours of just pure stress. And of course, when Boston did what they cut it to like 6 late in the game, like they tried to make it interesting. But it was Heat cruise control basically for 4 quarters of that game 7. Like it was about as stress-free as a game 7 on the road could possibly be. So that was just incredible. And it's why I'm done counting out this Heat team. They weren't supposed to beat Milwaukee. They weren't supposed to beat the New York Knicks. They certainly weren't supposed to beat the Boston Celtics. And I think, the Heat are like, I think 8.5 point underdogs game 1 against Denver. I've got some interesting series numbers here. This is courtesy of Jimmy Shapiro, who has me on this amazing list for odds. So according to the odds makers, this shouldn't surprise anyone. The most likely outcome, according to Las Vegas, is Nuggets in 5. They consider that to be the most probable way this series ends. Nuggets in 5, you get plus 240 odds on that. Nuggets in 7 is surprisingly enough the second most likely outcome according to Vegas at plus 350. Then you've got Nuggets in 6 at plus 400. Nuggets sweep at plus 450. So you get all those scenarios out of the way before they even give Miami a chance. Then you've got Heat in 6 at plus 800, Heat in 7 at plus 1200, Heat in 5 at plus 2500, Heat in 4 at plus 3,300. Maybe I won't do this just because Brooklyn Rob would not tolerate this, but I'm kind of thinking of laying some money on Heat in 6 that because I can get pretty good odds in that, right? But I don't know if Brooklyn Rob, because he knows my mush powers, I don't know if he would allow that. He says Florida Panthers parade will be on airboats in the Everglades. That would be kind of cool. And you know what? They should bring some actual Florida Panthers like with them. Like they should bring some actual Panthers on the airboats with them to do that celebration. Let's see. Game props. Highest scoring game total by any one team. Over under would be 127.5. Lowest scoring game total by any one team, 89.5. Player with most points in any one game. They consider Nikola Jokic to be the most likely to have the most points in any one game at plus 125. Jamal Murray, not Jimmy Butler, but Jamal Murray second at plus 175. Then Jimmy in third at plus 190. How about Caleb Martin, fourth most likely to have the most points in any finals game at plus 1,000? How incredible of a story is Caleb? I mean, Caleb Martin, and again, this is one of those guys who the media just talks about. Oh, this is one of those undrafted guys. But all of a sudden, Caleb Martin, he's playing like a superstar. he's playing like a top scoring option in the league when he's not even the top scoring option on his team. He's been playing so good. I mean, it's been crazy watching what he's put together. Hold on, I want to pull up the odds for game one if I can here. See what we're looking at for this first game because I hadn't checked them since yesterday. Oh, okay, so now it's Nuggets -9. I had said Denver -8.5. The Nuggets are now 9-point favorites in game one against the Heat. Plus 320 on the Heat money line. So if you think the Heat are going to go in there, they're not as rested as Denver, obviously, because the Nuggets have had like a month off now since the Heat played that game 7 and they swept the Lakers. But I know, guys, there can be something to be said for. I know you could have the whole rest versus rust argument, but the Heat are just going to be theoretically in so much more of a rhythm when they get to Denver. If they can have a hot start, maybe you steal that game one on the road. So, I don't think Heat at plus 320 on the money line would be that crazy of a thing to look at. The over-under is considerably higher than it was for the Heat Celtics games, over-under 219.5. So they're expecting somewhat of a high-scoring affair. I was listening to Heaton and George Sedano talking about the series this morning on Five on the Floor, and George pointed out that the Nuggets, excellent perimeter defenders, but they can be a little bit vulnerable in the paint. So you'd like to see the Heat attacking the paint in this series. That's what we're looking at. All right, my friends. I got to run and pick up my son in a little bit. As you can see, for those, watching the video feed here, I am repping the Heat on today's episode. The last time I actually bought a Heat jersey. It's been a while since I bought a Heat jersey. 2005 Shaquille O'Neal is what I'm wearing right now. The 2005. I feel like I should have bought, a Dwayne Wade jersey at some point. I should buy, a Jimmy. I should, buy a Bam or something. I feel like I've neglected the Heat in my jersey buying over the years, but I do still rock this 2005 Shaquille O'Neal. So let's go. And Errol says Heat in 6. Let's get it. Let's get it. Brooklyn Rob says Derek White could have went down in NBA history, but after the finals, it will be completely forgotten. That's a great point. That's an unbelievable point. You know what that makes me think of, Brooklyn Rob? Ray Allen. He hit the shot in game 6. The Heat still had to win that game, and they still had to win game 7 after Ray hit that shot. If the Heat had lost that series, like if they had lost in overtime in game 6, or if they lost game 7, the Ray Allen shot would have been a footnote in history. Like it would have been something forgotten because it wouldn't have mattered, right? And instead, the Heat went on to win that finals, and the Ray Allen shot is arguably like the greatest clutch moment in Miami Heat history, but it's only because they won that series and they won that finals, right? The Derek White, same thing. Like I'd practically already forgotten about it, right? Boston loses that series. They don't even get to the finals. Like no one's going to be talking about that in, a week's time or a year's time and whatever. That's an unbelievable point, Brooklyn Rob. The Wayne D Experience says Heat in 6 underdog story of the decade. I mean, it may not be the best underdog story in the city because the Florida Panthers could pull that off as well. It's unbelievable what's happening in this town. Teams of Destiny, my friends. Huge thank you and shout out. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at Alex Donno, Donno spelled D-O-N-N-O. Make sure you smash the like button, hit that thumbs up button here on Five Reasons Sports YouTube. Support everybody on the channel because there's going to be a ton of great Miami Heat and Florida Panthers content coming your way for the rest of the week. Make sure you're supporting prizepicks.com and the PrizePicks mobile app. Make sure you're supporting betteredge.com with our code 5RSN. And we'll talk to you next time on another episode of the Donno Drop here on the Five Reasons Sports Network. See ya.